Hello, second grade. Happy Tuesday. Today we are continuing with topic 15. We're about halfway through. Today we are working on dividing rectangles into equal squares. And our I can statement for today is I can divide rectangles into equal squares. What you're going to see with math today is going to be a lot of arrays. And arrays are something that we have worked on this year in math. It's dividing a shape into rows and columns and using a repeated addition problem to solve. So a repeated addition problem would be something like 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5. So the same number added over and over again. So if we look at this rectangle here, this blue rectangle, it has dotted lines, and it's asking us how many equal squares cover the rectangle, and how can you show this with an equation? So what they've done here is they've divided it by columns and rows. Now, just to review, remember columns stand tall, right? They're like castles. Columns, castles. So the columns stand nice and tall. So if you look, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 columns. Rows lay across like they're resting. Rows, resting. Hopefully now that I've repeated that statement, it's coming back to you from back in the fall when we spoke about arrays and learned about arrays. So columns stand tall like castles and rows lay across like they're resting. So if we look here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 columns. And in each column, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 squares. If we count the rows, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 rows, and each row has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 squares. So we want to find out how many equal squares do we have first. So I'm just going to count each row across. So we said we have 5. So we have 5, 10, 15, 20. Computer slow this morning. So we have 20 equal squares. So an equation that I can use is I did the rows. So I said that there was 1, 2, 3, 4 rows with 5 squares in each. So my equation would say 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5, right? 1, 2, 3, 4 rows. There's 4 blank spots. 5 squares in each row. 5 plus 5 is 10, plus 5 more is 15, plus 5 more is 20. And something that we did at school too is that we used to say R for rows, okay? So that hopefully this looks a little familiar to you, okay? If I wanted to do the column equation, they have it in red. I'm going to change it to red. So C equals, and I'm going to change it back to black. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there will be 5 numbers in my repeated addition sentence. And each column has 4 squares. And 4 plus 4 is 8, plus 4 is 12, plus 4 is 16, plus 4 is 20. And we know that this is correct because our row and our column equation both give the same sum. If you got 2 different sums, then your repeated addition problem would not be correct. Let's see, maybe today the video works. If not, I have assigned it for you that you can go back and watch. Oh, it is working.
How many red squares
All right,
can
we have no
cover this
sound, but that's okay.
rectangle?
I can talk for the video. So what we're going to find today is we're going to use squares that are about 1 inch in length to divide up our rectangle. And I know that you don't have squares. You could take another sheet of paper and trace over one of these squares and cut it out and use that to help you, or just try your best. So what we want to know is how many red squares cover this rectangle. And it's important.
Begin like
We're trying to
this.
find the exact
Not like this.
number of squares.
Why must the squares
We want our square layout to be laid out like this top one. They are not overlapping like they are at the bottom. There are no gaps or spaces in between the squares. They're laid out right next to each other. And this helps us to get the exact number. If we did this, they're overlapping and there's spaces, and so that's not going to tell us the exact number of squares in the rectangle.
be laid out the way they are in the top rectangle?
Work today, I want you to remember you want your squares to be laid out nice and neat.
The squares must be laid out the way they are in the top rectangle because the goal is to find the total number of red squares that exactly cover the rectangle. So there can be no gaps or overlaps.
And really slow down and try your best. So if we move over here and on your video, you can do this too, that since I've assigned it. So you can see I'm lining it up. Okay, they're not overlapped. Okay, there's no space. Okay, we're taking our time. Okay, so if we look here, we have 1, 2, 3 rows of squares and 1, 2, 3, 4 columns of squares. So we have a total of 12 squares.
Count. Each row has 4 squares. How many rows are there?
Squares for you. They're saying there's 4 in
Select
the row.
your answer.
Okay. I'm sorry, there's 3 rows. I misread the question. There are 3 rows.
There are 3 rows.
There are 4
You can add the squares by rows.
That's what I thought I was reading. So that's my mistake. See, teachers make mistakes.
How many squares in all?
Since there is no sound, I am just going to go back to your workbook page. So if we turn the page here, I am going to tell you that you can put an X in your do you understand box. Okay. We're looking at how many squares. This is just like the video, right? So for number 1, what you're going to do is you're going to use the square tiles to cover the rectangle. And so if you, on your math today, if you're using the computer, which you can also log on, if you have the paper packet with you, that's fine. You can log on and you can do this problem, especially on the computer, and then you can copy down the answers. And in the box, you can put completed on computer. But if you click this right here, right above, it says shape, and you click up here, you can actually drag. Oops. You can actually click on the square, okay, and you can reduce its size or make it a little bit bigger so that it matches, okay? And you can click the plus sign here, and you can add a bunch so you can fill them in. So I obviously didn't make mine big enough, but you get the idea here. I need to be a little bit wider. But for the moment, they will work. Okay, so you can see here, we use the tiles to cover the square. Again, I did not make mine, but for the sake of time and not making this video too long, again, you can just click the shape button, add a square, and you can shrink it to it or make it larger. So the first column was done for us, right? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 columns. So I'm just going to write this so that we know. We have 6 columns, and we have 1, 2, 3 rows. Okay. And so, how many squares cover the rectangle? Well, we can do our column addition problem. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and there are 3 in each. So we're going to say 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 equals 3 plus 3 is 6, plus 3 is 9, plus 3 is 12, plus 3 is 15, plus 3 is 18. That would be our repeated addition problem for columns. Let's see if we get the same for rows. We have 3 rows, and there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in each. So we say 6 plus 6 plus 6 plus 6 equals 6 plus 6 is 12, plus 6 more is 18. So we are correct. So how many squares total? There are 18. Okay, both answers match, which tells me that both of my repeated addition problems were correct. And so for math today, you're going to continue doing this. Okay, again, what you can do is you can go back here. You can trace this, either one square or all 3. You can trace this and then use it as a guide to trace here. Okay, remember that columns stand tall like a castle, so columns will go up and down, rows will go across, and then you're going to do your repeated addition problems. Okay, I know it erased on mine, but when you go, you can go back on this video and you can pause it right at this screen where I had the repeated addition problem and all of the squares filled in here. Okay, pause the video there and have it sitting next to you as you do your math to help you. And then you have just a quick looking at if this was a pan of cornbread, how many equal squares? Okay, here you're going to label the columns, which one shows the columns, which one shows the rows. Okay, number 8, you're going to look at this number 7, okay, and you're going to see what can you find, what can you discover about the rows and columns here, okay. And then your homework is just going to be a repeating again. Use your square tiles if you're on your computer. Use this, lay it here, and close the square until it matches, and then you can make your plus sign and it will add another one. And so I did it right over this square so that it was exactly the same size. And then you'll use it here to fill in. Remember, don't let them overlap. Plus sign makes one the exact same shape. The trash can obviously throws it and gets rid of it. Okay. So there, I helped you with the first part of the parcel. Okay. As always, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to send me a message. See you tomorrow.